Hey guys, I'm a Gaming Potato, and welcome back to my new series, Blueprints by Design. So we're currently on episode 4 of our Factorio Blueprints walkthrough. So in our last episode, we got our blueprints out for our red and green signs here. We also got our stacks ready, our refinery stacks. So these refineries are capable of refining a full red belt worth of resources. So we've upgraded our whole base to red belts. We've got our mall here going with a maxed out box of red belts as well as many other components. So in this episode, we're going to be progressing to black and blue science. So we can see here we have my blueprint for black science. I like it that it's very thin. It doesn't take up a lot of space. Long and thin, so you have lots of space in between your sides here. And we have our raw material inputs. So we've got copper and iron, as well as steel, bricks, and coal. I like to have blueprints where, for my sciences, I have mostly raw resources coming into them, and to produce the specific products that are required for them right on site for my science. So you can see we got our ammo, grenades, and walls here, producing black science for us. And of course, the quantity it produces can be upgraded via upgrading your assemblers to eventually tier 3 assemblers. You can add modules, you can add beacons to speed the whole process up. Another thing you can do is just add extra blueprints. So you could just take this blueprint and plop down another one right beside it to fit in more, if you want even more production than that. So black is pretty simple. We have mostly just generic raw resources coming into it. But then after black is done, we move on to blue science, and this requires more refined components. So we have our engines, which is just iron and steel, very simple. And we can see here we have one tier 2 assembler for our pipes, as this uses quite a lot of pipes, and if you only use a tier 1 assembler for your pipe, you won't be able to max out these engine assemblers. But then we move on to our more refined materials. We need sulfur and red circuits for this. So for our red circuits, I have a couple blueprints over here. Starting off with red circuits, we can see, just like with my sciences, I love a blueprint where I just have raw resources coming in. So rather than using my green circuit blueprint here to feed into another blueprint making red circuits, my red circuit blueprint actually takes in just raw iron, copper, and plastic and outputs your red circuits. Now this will not produce a full red belt of red circuits. You can see here we have 24 assemblers producing red circuits. You actually need over 200 of these assemblers, about 213 of these tier 2 assemblers producing red circuits just to max out a single belt. But because we're not mega basing or anything right now, this is plenty enough for just starting out. And once we get closer to the rocket, we can add a couple more of these if we need to, with some extra copper, iron, and plastic going into them. You can also see our green circuit blueprint here as well. This produces about a full red belt worth. We have 20 green circuit assemblers here. And we're basically maxing out our red belt of copper here. This consumes one full red belt of copper. And that's based on our wires here. This setup, I believe, is fully utilizing the copper as well. And then the plastic, it doesn't actually use, I believe it uses about half a belt of plastic. So you could have two of these systems running, I believe, on a single full red belt of of plastic, as well as a single full belt of iron. And then you would need 2 full belts of copper to feed 2 of these. So it's pretty well balanced. Although you can see, even though we've got red, green, blue, and black science going here, we don't actually have this green circuit blueprint hooked up to anything because it's not actually needed right now. We can go over here and we can see the only thing using green circuits here is just our red and green science. And this blueprint here produces enough science for 20 science labs using one single green circuit assembler. So you really don't need that many at all. And the nice thing with the way I have blueprints over here for our red circuits, like I said, we don't even need a green circuit line to actually make these red circuits because they're built right on site for our red circuits. So we just have raw resources going in. So that gives us half of what we need, our red circuits. But we also need sulfur. And so for sulfur, we actually need to start producing oil. So over here, I have a small blueprint just to produce a bit of sulfur and a bit of plastic. Because starting out, we can't fully utilize our refineries right now. All we can produce is our petroleum gas. We don't have the technology to produce all the different resources that these refineries can make. So starting out, we just have something small. So this is a tiny little piece of my full refinery blueprint with all my chemical labs and everything. But these 10 refineries will produce enough resources for these chemical labs here, producing a bit of copper and a bit of sulfur. I have a water fill mod that allows me to just place water wherever I want. So I just put a little blob of water here just for our water pump. And I also have another mod to place ores. So I put a little bit of coal ore here just to feed the plastic. So this is a very simple setup. I have a blueprint for this simple little refinery station here. And my full refinery blueprint, which is right here, you can see this is extremely large, but it can be placed directly on top of this starter refinery. You would just want to move your tiny little starter oil refinery area out of the way. This would be deleted once we unlock our full refinery potential. It's very small, it's very simple. But yeah, eventually we'll get to this here, which we can see is much more complex. So once we've unlocked all of our refinery technology, like heavy oil, medium oil, and light oil, we can then build this, which produces 3 full red belts of plastic, a full red belt of sulfur, a full belt of batteries, a bunch of lubricant, and it also does rocket fuel as well. But we don't need that right now. That gives us our plastic and our sulfur, which allows us to produce our blue science. So we can see so far this is pretty simple. Like to get blue and black science, you know, a blueprint for each science, a red circuit blueprint, and the simple refinery blueprint, and you've got red and blue or you've got black and blue science ready to go. And at this point, you can start getting really good technologies. Like we have down here the main ones, which are our logistics network. Construction robots, that's a really good one. You want construction robots, and then you want the personal roboport, as well as your power armor as well. We have our power armor right here. We can throw in a couple personal roboports and get a bunch of drones to help us out. And of course, you'll want your drone speed upgrades as well. And then generally after blue science, you can choose whether you go with purple science or yellow. I usually recommend going with yellow next, as yellow has more personal roboport upgrades. So we can find somewhere on here, there we go, personal roboport Mark II. That requires yellow science. That means we can have even more drones working for us, which improves and speeds up our ability to construct things even faster. Also, that's where we get our portable fusion reactor, which is awesome. And Mark II power armor. Let's see. That should be, oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, also Mark II power armor requires the yellow science. So generally you're going to want to go with yellow next. The only thing with yellow is you need a very large blueprint for yellow. If we go to yellow here. So I think next episode I'll probably cover yellow science and maybe purple science as well. I've built this blueprint as a very large blueprint. And we can cover some other blueprints as well. Hopefully by then we'll move on to electric furnaces and we can start getting outposts and stuff in for even more resources. So yeah, we have a pretty simple blue and black blueprint here, just a couple of stacks. They're very thin, which makes them great for stacking up vertically so you can reach them without going too far. And you can leave space between them for more logistics and stuff like that. Well, if you enjoy my content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll have more episodes for you soon. Alright, thanks, bye.